Okay, so you want to work with youth at your church. You want to be a mentor, you want to be a leader for youth. Maybe you had a really effective youth group that you were part of when you were a teenager, and so you want to pass that on to a new group of teenagers. Maybe you came to Christ later in life and you didn't have a lot of direction as a teenager. And so you think, man, I'd love to impart some wisdom, some truth into teenagers to give them the mentoring, the guidance that I didn't have when I was young. Whatever your reason, it's great that you want to work with youth, but it's important that you understand the purpose of youth ministry. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. What is the purpose of youth ministry? You know, a lot of youth ministries, a lot of youth groups, they fill their time with events and parties and activities and retreats and outreach events of all different kinds. And those things are good. Don't mistake me. Those are important. Those can be catalysts for growth in your youth group. Sometimes it is just important to have fun and to enjoy one another's company. But none of those things really get at the main point of youth ministry. And so it's really important that if you are going to work with youth, that you understand and are convinced what the goal of youth ministry truly is. And so let me introduce that to you. The goal of youth ministry is helping students become disciples of Jesus who make disciples of Jesus. This is the goal for your youth ministry. You might have hundreds of kids that come and sign up to play broom ball on an ice hockey rink, or you might have tons of students sign up to go on laser tag events, or you might have a ton of students sign up for missions trips or outreaches in the inner city, and all those things are good and helpful, and they have their place in the lives of teenagers and in the life of a youth group. But none of those things by themselves get at that goal. Again, the goal, which is to see students become disciples of Jesus who make other disciples of Jesus. That's the goal. That's the win. That's how we evaluate our small group time. That's how we evaluate any big group time where the whole youth group gets together. It's how we figure out, are we winning as a ministry? Are students becoming disciples of Jesus who then make other disciples of Jesus? Now, we didn't come up with this. This isn't our goal, but it's what Jesus gave to his followers, gave to not just students, but all Christians in Matthew 28. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Okay, let's break down this goal a little bit further. We want to see students become disciples of Jesus. That's what Jesus talked about in Matthew 28. He said, go out into the world and tell people about me, baptize them. That, as I understand it, that kind of refers to evangelism, because you get baptized once you become a Christian. Once you put your faith in Jesus for the forgiveness of your sins, then you're baptized. And when you have that faith moment, what we like to call that defining moment, when you recognize that you're a sinner and that only Jesus can save you, and you trust in him, that's your defining moment, the moment you become a Christian. And so certainly we want to see students become Christians. We want to see students in our youth group become Christians. We want to see students in our churches become Christians. We want to see students in our communities become followers of Jesus. We want them to be disciples of Jesus, which means they trust in Jesus for the forgiveness of their sins, but also that they grow to honor God with their lives. You know, Jesus said, teach them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And so that's a lot of work. That's a lot to do, to begin to honor God with our lives, to obey everything that God commanded us to do. But notice that's not the end of it. There are youth groups that have students who believe in Jesus and who really do a good job honoring God with their lives, but they miss the ultimate goal or that final piece to the goal of youth ministry, which is we want students who are disciples of Jesus who then go and make other disciples of Jesus. You see, we want our students not just to be disciples, but disciple makers. We want to help them help their friends find a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And that's part of the Great Commission, that you're not done. We're not done with our students if they know a lot about the Bible, or even if they're honoring God with their lives, if they are showing a lot of good fruit in their lives. We've really done our job if our students not only follow Jesus, but help their friends, help other people, help younger students follow Jesus. That's the goal. Students who are disciples who make disciples. I know I'm being really repetitive, but it's so foundational. So if that's the goal, then I want to introduce you to what's the center of youth ministry, the small group. Now, there are a lot of ways to do youth ministry. You can have big rallies where you have a dynamic speaker and an amazing worship team, and you've got hundreds of students in the same room. You can have a youth service that goes alongside sort of the big church service at your church. There's lots of ways that you can do youth ministry. But we believe that the center of youth ministry should be the small group, because it's in the small group where discipleship really can begin to happen. You know, if you go to a large gathering with hundreds of students and you hear an amazing band, you hear an awesome preacher, you might get inspired, you might get challenged, but it's so easy to just sort of have that be kind of a momentary excitement, or like a mountaintop experience where you get really jazzed and excited about God, but then you go back home and you kind of forget all about your commitments. Same thing kind of happens at retreats sometimes. But a consistent small group is the perfect place where youth ministry can happen, where adult leaders can mentor students, where you can get to know students, that you get to check in on the growth of a student and see them progress throughout the year or the years, and you can walk with them, coach them, and help them disciple other students. The small group is a place where students can ask questions, share prayer requests, can really get to know leaders. You know, one problem with having one dynamic, great youth pastor is once the youth group gets to a certain size, you know, that youth pastor can't be connected to everybody. And so if you're not part of the youth pastor's group, you kind of feel left out. But in a small group ministry, you understand that it's not about being connected to one leader, one person. It's about being connected to mentors, to students in a small group atmosphere. And so the center, the heartbeat, what you should really focus on making great in your youth ministry is your small groups. We got lots of training on small groups. There's a lot of Pursue God resources, one just called Small Group Training, Small Group Leader Training. We've got a lot of articles, a lot of which are written for adults, but can certainly help you as you think about leading a small group as a youth leader. But let's talk about the role of youth ministry. Partnering with parents to disciple their students. Now, this is really important to understand. You don't, as a youth leader, you don't take the place of a parent. It's not all of a sudden your sole responsibility to see these kids discipled. Ultimately, as a parent, and I say this as a parent, but it's the responsibility of parents to disciple their students. As a parent of 4 kids, it's my responsibility to oversee the discipleship of my kids. But we all know when you become a teenager, your relationship with your parents changes quite a bit. And as a result, it's helpful to have other mentors, other people, youth leaders like you, come into the lives of students and help them pursue God. And so understand that your role is to come alongside parents. And I can't stress how important it is to talk about this with the parents of the kids in your youth group, the students in your youth group. Tell the parents that you're here to help them. You're here to walk alongside them too. This is a partnership between the church and parents. Together, we're discipling students. Together, we're discipling the next generation. So let's talk about your commitment. Mentoring students and leading a small group. It's important to talk about the commitment that you are making because your role is so vital. As a youth leader, you get to play a crucial role in leading the next generation of your church, the next generation of Christian leaders, the next generation of leaders in your community, maybe leaders of our nation, who knows, even leaders of the world. I like to think big. And so this is a vital role that you're playing, and it's important that you're committed to it. Students want leaders who are committed. If you are committed to your small group, if you are committed to your students will open up to you. But if you fail to show up half the time, if you're late, if you're unprepared, students are going to see through that, and they're not going to feel like you really care about them. So be committed to being a mentor and a small group leader. Don't think that your main role on a youth ministry is to play guitar on a worship team or to be kind of funny in the lobby or in the welcome time or whatever it is, even to be a teacher from the stage. Really, what your youth ministry needs is a person who wants to be a mentor and wants to be a small group leader and who is willing to do that week after week. You might think at this point, okay, I'm not really ready for that commitment, and that's okay. This is the point of the training. We want to help you understand if you're really ready and willing to be a youth leader. But let me say this. There is nothing more rewarding than seeing a young person come to faith in Jesus, grow in honoring God, and then helping his or her friends or his or her family pursue God. And that's the opportunity that you have as a youth leader.